Hello and welcome to another episode of the Mining Conversation with MsTedy. This is the Mining Indaba 2026 edition, and today we are going to be having conversation with MQA. So please, before I start the conversation, I need you guys to subscribe, like, share, follow so that you can listen and watch more of this conversation. So today we are joined by Dr. Thabo Mashongoane. Your surname, yes. I'll get it right. Who is the CEO of MQA? He is going to tell us why it was important for MQA to attend the Mining Indaba, his hopes as to the outcome that will be achieved at this Mining Indaba. So welcome again. I did have you previously for season 1 on in studio. It was an awesome conversation. So before we start, or when we start, can you just tell us why was it important for MQA to come to this Mining Indaba?
MQA's mandate is to develop skills, to train people, to ensure that we put competent workforce in the mining space, and therefore the only way to keep abreast of the developments in order for us to then meet the human capital needs is to understand the direction of technology and all other aspects that then affect the space, which is the mining sector.
Wonderful. So tell me, I know MQA has been in this space where it works with the mining industry for about 30 years now. What would you say it took for the organization to be in, let's say, it's a staying power, because for an organization to achieve 30 years, what would you say it took?
It took perseverance and consistency, understanding the sector needs, because only when you understand the needs of the skill development needs of the sector, you are then able to get cooperation from relevant stakeholders such as the mining houses themselves, the employers, the trade unions, and also the beneficiaries, because then they develop trust in your product, in your services, and that's exactly what kept us going for this 30 years.
And what would you say you have achieved as an organization in these 30 years?
In the 30 years, politically speaking and realistically speaking, numbers do matter. We have trained over 800,000 beneficiaries for the last 30 years. Now that's not a small number, big number. Now if we were then to break it down into various categories of the training interventions that we have offered, I mean, you then be speaking of the artisans, probably big numbers, more than 10,000 artisans. So then you will then speak of university graduates, ranging from the geologists to the mine engineers, big and high numbers, of course, more than 10,000, even 20,000. You then talk to skills development interventions, then you have even much bigger numbers, because that's where we have been training for occupational health and safety. I mean, we need the safety reps in the mining space, as well as the distance certificates and many other. We have various interventions with high numbers. That's what we have done for the last 30 years.
And then in this high number that you speak about, how much of it is women? Because we know that the mining industry is still very much male-dominated. So do you perhaps have numbers as to how many women?
At the moment, I will not necessarily give you the numbers, but I can tell you that our intervention transformed the face of mining. You no longer just see males in the mining space. You see women. I mean, in the numbers that I spoke about, the interventions, be it the mine managers as well as the geologists, you see a lot of ladies in that space. You see a lot of women being artisans, the boiler makers, and so there is a higher percentage that we have introduced into the mining space of women.
Wonderful. And then let's just touch on we know there's still a skills development or skills shortage in South Africa in the mining industry. How is MQA working with that skills shortage is somehow covered? I don't know if it was going to be achieved in a year or few years, but what is it that you guys are doing?
For me, skills gap is something that will be with us for the longest time.
Yeah.
Because if there's no skills gap, then there'll be people will be comfortable, complacency.
All right.
But once this advancement of technology, there's going to be a skills gap. Now, skills shortage in our sector simply says what is it, the type of skill sets that are required to drive the newest technology in this space. So for now, it's even getting much higher because of the latest technology introduced in the mining space. I mean, we're talking here automation of the industry, you're talking mechanization and 4IR. So all of those technology require new skill sets. Either you then begin to upskill the current workforce and even reskill the current workforce. But as the new entrants come in, how then do you then introduce them to the latest kind of curriculum? Now this then says from the demand side, we engage other stakeholders such as universities, TVET and so forth, so as then they ready themselves, and we also assist them in terms of curriculum development and material development, even through quality council. Now your question is, how then do we close the skills gap? I mean, we do this by collecting data from the employers on an annual basis through what we call workplace skills plans. And now these data is turned into what we call sector skills plans. Now we plan for the entire sector for a period of 5 years, but then on an annual basis we review the sector skills plan through the WSPs, so as we are on top of our game. Otherwise we'll then be lagging behind with technology.
Yes. Yeah. Wonderful. So going back to the Mining Indaba, this year's theme is Stronger Together. How does that communicate to MQA?
MQA, one of the values is collaboration. That also speaks to partnership. Now, Stronger Together, it simply means there's a recognition that we cannot do it alone. The Mining Indaba realized that we then need to rope in all other stakeholders. It can't be the business of employers as well as government alone. The trade unions must play a very active role in the space. But more than that, the communities, because mining activities happens within community setting, and therefore we found the involvement of communities as well as to see how best can communities also benefit. It can't just be a one-way street of the employers and government benefiting out of this partnership. So it's important to do so.
Yes, and then for anybody who's at home watching and thinking, what's the use of Mining Indaba? Why do you think such a platform is important for the mining industry?
Mining Indaba is a beautiful platform of engagement for all stakeholders and partners, because investors would want to engage with one another in terms of how can they begin to leverage their resources, how can they begin to optimize. Now government is interested to come and listen and engage with investors in this kind of platform, because they are our enablers of this industry, because they will then have to ensure that the mining environment is conducive for business. So that's why government would come, and we as the skills development players, we come in to listen to the policy direction in terms of the discussion, so as we then ready the human capital element to support mining sector. So community and trade unions would also take keen interest of these debates and say we need to add to the voice of the direction that determines the direction of the sector. So it's a beautiful stakeholder platform.
Yeah. So one of the challenges that South Africa is facing in the mining industry, it is the illegal mining. I spoke to somebody who said it is also wrong for us to just see that problem as criminal. We actually need to are your thoughts on why is South Africa dealing with this problem? How do we win against it? What is the real issue with this Zamazamas that maybe we're not seeing the bigger picture?
What I actually appreciated yesterday's in the opening address, our minister, that is Minister Mantashe, touched on this point to say we as South Africans, we are lagging behind in regard to artisanal mining, which is the right terminology. Zamazama is our own way of saying this is a criminal activity. The rest of other African countries, most of them, have been long in the artisanal mining space. So they have ways and policies and frameworks as to how this business can then be governed. And so we are to learn. This is what is had. I know that previously we tried setting up some frameworks around these important issues as we root out the Zamazamas, but probably we were not yet ready, so we have to then refocus. I mean, as MQA, we also have a way of assisting just the reduction of this, a program called small-scale mining and artisanal, small-scale and artisanal mining. So it's a program, but then we're saying it must happen within an environment which is legal. But then you also then are faced with an illegal environment outside that. Now it is not within our scope as MQA because ours is policy on training. Now this is where now we are waiting and working with government to say once they put together a legal framework, we will then support that. But we continue to engage even whoever that requires training, be it the artisanal miners, we engage them, and we support also women, especially women in mining.
All right, just to, as we get closer to the end of this discussion, I don't call it interviews, it's a discussion. So there's a young person who wants to get into the mining industry. I know the first thing that young people think of is universities. You know, my first child was like, when we told her to go to college, she was adamant, I'm not going to college. What is it that we're missing about colleges? As parents, as young people, what is it that we're missing in that space?
Yes, what I like about your question is that I also come from colleges, so I know that space very well. Indeed, our college, kind of approach with the South African environment still has to mature. If you were to look at the other standards of the TVETs, it's much higher, and of course the economy supported the college system. We used to, in the older days, where college system was important, but the focus, it was a limited focus of artisans and apprentices. So it was working, and most of the people would go there because they knew that after going through the college system, I'm going to be employed. Now currently, because of economic factors, high unemployment, even university graduates, they do not get employed, absorbed all of them. So with the college system, it's then worse. So we then have to say, how can we support the college system resource-wise, ensure that it has the necessary skill sets at the level of teaching that will then take these learners, not only in South Africa, but even export them. So we need to do that. The infrastructure resources. So we really need to do much more to uplift our standards at the college level. But I must also say, currently it is still working because we collaborating with colleges. We are producing a lot of artisans. The numbers that I spoke about, mostly it's industry together with colleges developing such artisans. But there is room for improvement, particularly when it comes to college system.
So tell us, next 30 years for MQA, what does it look like?
We're looking at MQA that is going to be versatile in terms of how it responds to the industry skills needs. But we're also looking at MQA that will then begin to expose people at the higher end kind of skills, because we're looking at the production of industrialists, the production of people at the highest level of skills who would be the enablers of creation of employment. Because we can't just be an MQA that focus on the beginners, because they will not be able to create more employment. So we want to provide avenues for people to go out even internationally, the rest of Africa, to say how best can we learn the other skills from other countries, come back home and implement such in such a way that we grow our economy, because only when our economy grows then we'll create more employment. So I think MQA has to still continue to cater for the new entrants at the bottom, because they will forever be there, but begin to drive its resources to say how best can we support high-end skills, which in the long term will then be catalyst for greater economic growth.
Wonderful. Dr. Mashongoane, thank you so much for this discussion. So that was Dr. Mashongoane from the Mining Qualification Authority, and we are at the Mining Indaba. We are at the Mining Indaba 2026, and thank you so much for watching this interview. We are available on YouTube, so please do subscribe, like, share and follow, so that there can be more such conversation. With that being said, I also would like to thank my team, which is not here. That is Kamuma Langabi, who is my producer, as well as Nkele Khatebe, that does my makeup. So thank you. Until next time, goodbye.